It's amazing to me that so many people are incapable of thinking for themselves. And that's why we're in this position today. In the past 4 years, we haven't had any terrorist attacks. And then all of a sudden, as soon as Trump gets voted into office, take a look. Two attacks in less than a week. But somehow this is Biden's fault? If you guys don't understand how absolutely fucking ridiculous you sound and how ignorant you are, then you get everything that you deserve. And I hope you are the next victim of those terrorist attacks. Because at the end of the day, if you think this is Biden's fault, you're clearly...
Wokeness is not only a mental illness, but it is one of the most severe forms of mental illness that I've ever witnessed. And the reason I say that is because it's like, there's a spectrum of mental illness. And oftentimes a person will fall somewhere on that spectrum. It's like, how severe is the psychosis, right? Sometimes it's a 3 out of 10. Sometimes it's a full-blown 10. With the woke ideology, because it begins as an ideology that leads to psychosis. With the woke ideology, there's no end as to how crazy it can actually get. Like, how deep can you get into this delusion and this psychosis? For example, so at first you can, see yourself as you are, and you can think to yourself, I know I have, an entire biology that tells me that I am a man, but I don't feel like one. And so in, let's say, like a level 3 psychosis, I can go, damn, like, okay, I don't feel like a man. I am, but I don't feel like it. And, there's a level of inner disturbance, inner turmoil. There's some sort of identity crisis, but it stops there, right? And you could say there's a level of mental illness that is taking place if I have that belief that I just, like, this is not my body. With the woke ideology, it takes it to the point where it's like, not only do you feel that way, but it's the reality. It is truth. And therefore, you need to chop your joint off. Yeah. With the woke ideology, which is nothing more than a neo-Marxist mentality of like subjective truth, there is no true truth, right? With that type of mentality, you do not only stick at, I feel out of my body, I feel, it's like I'm disconnected from reality. It's kind of like somebody who has, let's say, schizophrenia, right? That sort of individual feels as if all of these things that are happening that are not happening, right? There's paranoia and things of that nature, which they see as a reality, but it's not actually a reality. And some people have I guess a light enough version, if you could say that, right? It's not this completely severe version of it where they can sort of connect to say, I know that, I just came out of an episode, or that is delusion, it is paranoia, and it's not real. Then there's some who are so far on that spectrum that they believe in every single one of their delusions. And that's where the woke ideology takes you. It takes you all the way to the very extreme. And unfortunately, there is no end to the extreme. It's just like, there's no end to how good can really get. You can get to a state of bliss and ecstasy. There's no limit to how deep and dark that negativity can truly go. Evil knows no bounds, right? Darkness knows no bounds. Things can get worse and worse, and they can continue to spiral if an individual if they let themselves or they give themselves over to that. And, what feeds into this is obviously the multitudes of rabbit holes within these echo chambers. And I always say, we are all in an echo chamber of some sort. I'm in an echo chamber, you're in an echo chamber. You're likely listening to me because you fall into the echo chamber that echoes the sentiments that I'm presenting to you right now, right? You have other content creators who have this same level of, let's say, conversation, understanding, whatever it is that you're getting from this right now. The difference between this echo chamber and that echo chamber is the fact that that one is constantly feeding you a narrative that you are oppressed, that you are a victim, that you have no personal agency. And according to psychology, the number one factor for somebody falling into chronic depression, chronic stress, anxiety, etc., is the belief that one does not have personal agency. So as soon as you adopt that as your identity to say, I can do nothing for myself, I can't change my life, things are happening to me, you find yourself in a state of chronic depression. And sometimes it manifests itself, in different ways that we've seen. That's why when you look at these people, they will literally screech and claw and fight. And they will get physical, and they will say things like, words are violence, or ideas in themselves are violence. They're feeling as if they're actually being physically attacked by your words, or by your opinions, or by your stance, right? So when somebody's like, actually there's two genders, it's boys and girls, or male and female, they feel a physical attack. They feel the sensations of that, because in their world, again, there's no safeguard, there's no protection. And so that's why they'll tend to lash out in the ways that they do. It's like Donald Trump, to them, has been instilled through, 8 years to 9 years of psychological warfare, psyop. There's been programming, this conditioning that he is this monster that's coming to get you, and he's taking everything from you. And so all reason goes to the wayside. They cannot be reasoned with. They are so far gone in this ideology. I preach on wokeness all the time, and the reason I do it so, extensively, and I go so deep, and I know Diddy, but I continue to preach the same message, is because I believe that this is the most detrimental ideology that has, come into our culture. And if you look at, let's say, radical Islam or something like that, right? Those can go hand in hand with the woke ideology, because the woke ideology is like, they have groups such as Queers for Palestine, right? That's an actual group. The level of psychosis in that belief system is so far that these individuals don't even realize the person they're trying to ally with would rather have them unalived, would not even stand with them in the very same protest that they're fighting for their rights, right? But again, it is a mechanism that is used within the mind of the woke individual to create a safeguard, some level of, protective element. Again, they feel they are oppressed by all things. And of course, there are those who manipulate and use this, such as the race hustlers, etc., who don't actually believe these things, but they continue to preach it because they know that it's going to be, financially lucrative. Al Sharpton's going to show up at every single march, and, BLM is going to pull up, and they're going to get their bag. Somebody just dropped a comment on one of my videos. They said, I thought it stood for buying luxurious mansions. BLM, that's hilarious. I'd never heard that before. Maybe that's been making the rounds. I just hadn't heard it. So kudos to you. You're the first. But there's those who use these movements, etc. They take advantage of those who are severely mentally ill. And I forgot what psychologist. It might have been Jolly Heretic or somebody, who covers these subjects from a purely biological as well as psychological basis. Me, I do a lot of opinion mixed in with these things. I give my stance and, then obviously add the facts around it and just logic, just pure, common sense, really. But he was essentially mentioning how within the woke movement, as they call it, within the woke ideology, there's high levels of mental illness. They were saying something like 50 to 60% of these individuals have mental illnesses. And there was a survey that was done. I don't know what the exact survey was, but you can look this up for yourself. There are high levels of mental illness within individuals in the far left and the so-called progressive movement, etc. And it only makes sense. Again, these are individuals who are perceiving the world as this imminent threat. There's an imminent doom, and they have no agency. And so the only way they feel they can protect themselves are, these things manifest in the most ridiculous forms. So it's like, okay, how do I protect myself from, this bad, evil concept? And so I can use, word attacks. So that's why they'll tend to use words such as racist, fascist, sexist, etc., right? They understand that if I use certain subsect of words, and this can also tie into covert manipulation or covert narcissism and things of that nature, right? I did an entire video just paralleling the woke ideology and also narcissism, which can tie into there, which is a personality disorder. So it is closely tied to, things of the mind, coping mechanisms, trauma responses, etc. So you find that these individuals will use shame tactics, calling you a racist. And if you feel some sort of shame behind that, then you'll back off. It's a defense for them, right? It's a very, very strange thing. Even my girl did some research as far as why they will color their hair. You'll find the blue hairs, the purple, pink, whatever hairs. And it turns out that in nature, it's like different animals, predators, etc., or prey will use that to ward off predators. So it's like almost a signaling to get people off you. Again, it's to realize these people are living in a state of genuine paranoia. And so the things they exhibit, though they may not look animalistic, there's a very primitive aspect that they're using more complex ways of basically like, before I get attacked, I must attack. That's why they have that almost like it's like the foundation of logic is not there, right? Even the ones who sound intellectually competent, like the David Pacmans of the world, these sorts of individuals, if you've ever heard of that guy, if you haven't, you're better off. But, they can sound articulate. They can go into university systems and they can be taught a whole bunch of linguistics in order to communicate the very same mechanisms that they're using, to get their way. And when you're in that dynamic of like the fear response, the one thing you're looking for is dominance and power, which then also explains why they're always looking to assert themselves. They're looking to be dominant. It's a power play. Everything they do is to get in positions of power. That's why they want to break down the power structures. It's all about breaking down the system of oppression, the system of white supremacy, the system of the patriarchy, It's to deconstruct that so they can reposition themselves in power so they can feel safe, i.e. Nancy Pelosi. But yeah, when I started really digging into this and understanding it contextualizes things. It makes it make sense, but it also sets me up to say you got to understand what you're dealing with these people. People have been cut off by family members, etc. after Trump won, right? Again, this is the level of psychosis these people have. They will literally cut their own arm to spite their body, right? They'll cut their nose to spite their face. So they will cut off valuable family members. There's this girl who was right in the as the results dropped for the 2024 election, and she was like genuine bawling, crying. And she's like, Trump, I fucking hate you. You made me have to I could talk to my dad. She's basically expressing how now she can't talk to her dad and she has to cut him off forever, even though she loves her dad so much and he's her favorite person. But yet because her dad voted for Trump, and like Trump did this and he is the imminent threat, and therefore she cut off her father in that moment. And many others cut their family members off the basis, right? And they use things such as, well, this controversy, that controversy, lawfare, etc. The media is well aware that they can just use messaging to double down on these people's psychosis. They're really taking advantage of a vulnerable population, quote unquote vulnerable, those who are susceptible to such ideas. That's why a rational-minded person says, what the hell? Like, why? You can't see that? It's like, oh, George Soros gets a Medal of Freedom from Joe Biden, the same George Soros who has been funding this democratic movement since since the walls of Jericho fell. You know what I mean? You guys don't see the conflict. No, Trump bad, Trump evil, Trump rapist. You know what I mean? The messaging has been so deeply embedded, and it's serving its purpose. And so really my end game with this is this. We all have to find ourselves in a place where we are thinking for ourselves, because it's easy to get caught up in ideas, ideology, etc. And especially if you have susceptibility to just falling into something, like even me, question me. You have to question everything, and you have to come to your own understanding. Thinking is one of the rarest forms of life. Right? This guy right here, where's he at? This dude right here, Evil Eyes. Yeah, I like to read everything. So Evil Eyes over here, John D. Rockefeller. He said, I do not want a population that thinks. I want a population that works. And thinking is oftentimes the hardest work to do. So they'd rather have you just autopilot than you actually start to ration for yourself, to reason for yourself. So my message is that think for yourself, folks. Open your mind. Stimulate your mind, not by that. Use your mental faculties and don't allow yourself to become susceptible. Question things. Don't find yourself falling into cult ideology and cult behavior. I've been there, done that. From veganism to, left pro-blackity blackness, I done it all. And that's why I can sit here and articulate these messages in the way that I can, because I know what that is. I might not have had the same susceptibility to the, again, that deep level of psychosis, but it was enough to where, I was given over to it. I truly believed in these things. It became kind of religious for me until I realized, wait a minute, these things actually aren't serving my life, and they're creating more dissonance for me as opposed to congruence within me. So that's all I got for now. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I used to be afraid of the dark, place unknown like a heart in their heart. I used to see my life in the bar. Now the kids unchained, every shackle is lost. 2 steps in the moonlight, 2 step in the daytime. You just know when it feel right. You got a feeling the time's not. See you through those shades that I just threw on. Through my lenses, you just can't do no wrong. I fell in love with myself again. I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 365, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising.